Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest, third time, which is amazing. And I am so honored to have again on this podcast, Cameron Herold, the one and the only. Hey, Cameron.
Hi, Adi. How are you? Nice to see you.
Good. Nice to see you too. You know, Cameron, I have to reflect back. Like the first time that I heard about you is I read your book, Vivid Vision, that was introduced to me by one of my clients. That was like years ago. I think it was probably in 2016. Or when did you write the book?
Vivid Vision, yeah, about 2016. That sounds about right.
Yeah, so just after he came out, so my Paul Miller, the owner of Cozy Phones, he introduced me to that book, and I read it and be like, wow, what a great guy. and then we got introduced again by somewhere in 2020 during the pandemic. We got introduced, and then you came on the podcast, and we did another show. And now you're here again. But for those listeners, which is, I can't imagine that there is anyone that doesn't know about Cameron Herold, but just in case, I'm going to read your bio, just in case there was maybe one or two of our listeners here. Sure. So Cameron, you're the mastermind behind the exponential growth of hundreds of companies globally. You're the founder of COO Alliance and invest in your leaders training. And you are known as the CEO Whisperer, and also as the former COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which I love that company. I used them twice in the last year when we had to move and we had to empty our attic. Wonderful company. Yes, totally amazing. So you did a good job, and it's still continuing. So the culture is there, and the processes, you know, I'm all about processes. Great process. They have amazing processes.
Thank you.
So yeah, you engineered the company's spectacular growth from 2 million to 106 million in revenue in just 6 years. Yeah. And the publisher of Forbes magazine stated, Cameron Herold is the best speaker I've ever heard. He hits grand slams. Okay, Cameron, are you melting? Oh, so are you still there with all this compliments?
I'm still here.
And you're the host of the Second in Command podcast, author of 6 best-selling books, including The Second in Command, Vivid Vision, Meeting Sucks, Free PR, wonderful book, by the way, Double Double, and The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. So Vivid Vision, Double Double, PR, Free PR, all of them are great books.
Thank you.
Second in Command, that was our last conversation, and I'll put that in the show notes as well, because it's a great book.
Great.
We dissected the book and talked all about the book. So
yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Now we're here. And Cameron, fun fact is that you are traveling around the world now for 47 months in a row, right?
47 months. Yeah, my wife and I sold everything 4 years ago and decided to be nomads. And so we've been traveling the world and living in different countries and exploring. And yeah, just back from swimming with the whales in Tonga last week, which is an island in the Pacific.
Amazing. And now we are in Australia?
Yeah, I'll be in Australia for about a month and a half right now.
Yeah, and last time when we spoke 2 years, I think it was 2 years ago, you were in Jerusalem, so it's still going. No, it's 47 months, so yes, it's still on. Okay, so what is new in the life of Cameron Herold? Other than
I'm not sure there's a lot that's new, because I've always stayed pretty focused, but you said something that I wanted to go back and touch on, which was the scale of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And, you know, because you specialize in the whole area around systems and processes, that was something that I had to spend a lot of time thinking about at 1-800-GOT-JUNK that I'm rarely asked about. And it was putting systems in place that allowed the company to scale predictably in 330 cities in 4 countries, right? It allowed us to scale predictably and very, very quickly. You know, we doubled our revenue 6 consecutive years in a row. So my thought around systems has always been to put a system in place that is easy enough for the worst employee in the worst market at the worst times to be able to use. because if you always put in place the perfect system that is complicated, no one's going to use it. So we really did put these very basic systems, and we put a system in place for everything, even how to hang a sign up. I remember that we put us like a little 4 or 5 point checklist on how to hang a sign, how to park our trucks. We had strategic systems on where to park and how to park. We had systems in place for how to back up a truck and how to back up a truck using hand signals that would be recognized and easy to do so that we didn't cause accidents. And I think it was that predictability is what I learned at College Pro Painters. When we were building out the world's largest residential house painting company, which people rarely talk about, that's really where I got trained on putting systems and processes in place because we had to hire 800 franchisees every year. And then in 1 month, we had to train them on how to hire 8,000 people. So imagine putting systems in place to recruit, interview, hire, train, and basically lead 8,800 people over the period of 1 quarter. And that's where I became operationally world class on the size of people. And then even building out my Invest in Your Leaders training, which is an online training program. You talk a lot about putting systems and processes in place for scale, but if your people don't have the leadership skills to lead people, the systems are going to completely fall apart, right?
Absolutely.
Systems don't run themselves.
No, they don't. And we spoke about it in our last podcast, and that's why it's such a great combination, because people cannot run without systems. Systems cannot run without people. It's all a combination of
Correct.
both. And
I
that's why
I was talking to someone yesterday about that there's a system called EOS. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System by Gino Wickman. Great basic systems for a smaller company to scale. But I said they're useless if the management team doesn't know how to manage people, if you don't know how to apply situational leadership, coaching, delegation, if you don't know how to do job interviews, if you don't know how to run meetings, none of those operating systems matter if you have a leadership team that's weak on leading and recruiting and growing people. They need to complement each other.
absolutely, I agree 100%. And no, when we talk about systems, we talk about the processes and procedures, and that's what you basically implemented in 1-800 Got Junk and College Pro and the Pro Painters, right? The painting company. It's just you have to have processes, and you have to lead people, and you have to make sure that people are following the processes. What are some of the we start talking about systems, so that's good, but give me some ideas or some of your successful actions of actually making sure that those processes were followed, because it's one thing to implement, it's another thing to encourage or inspire people to follow those processes.
Yeah, we used to use a system that I called, or a mantra that I called, of sell them, don't tell them. So instead of telling someone to use a system, I would show them how using that system would make them more profitable, or would help them grow revenue, or it would make their employees happier. It would make their job easier. It would make the customers happier. When I showed them the net result of using the systems, that usually got them to want to use them just based on removing pain or giving them pleasure. So
Right.
often I would attach that to profitability, right? My dad used to say that money talks, bullshit walks. So if somebody wants to be more profitable, they want to be more profitable in their job or build a better company, systems are one of the core ways to do that. And then they'll be like, okay, well, show me the systems, right? Or if I say, well, if your goal is to make, $500,000 in profit this year, what if I showed you a way that you could make 1 million and work less and not work as hard? They'll be like, yeah, show me. And then those are the systems.
Right, it's the what is in it for them, right? What is in it for me?
Yeah.
And that is, I agree with that, because when we go and implement and roll out the systems, it's always talking to the people we are working with and asking them what benefits, getting them to see the benefits, because otherwise you can't just force somebody to use it. And
And
that
I really had to learn that as a franchisor. I learned that back in my College Pro Painters days because the franchisees usually had a profit number that they were excited about hitting. But the franchisor only made money off of the royalty revenue. So the more revenue that a franchisee did, the more royalty we collected, which means we wanted our franchisees to do more in revenue. But if the franchisee hit a level of satisfaction, they wouldn't drive for more revenue.
right,
They wouldn't work harder. So I
that's
usually
right.
had So I usually had to find a way to kind of trick them into wanting to grow so that they would then go after it. So it would be like, what would your year be like at university next year if you had more money? Or what would that trip around the world be like if you could go backpacking with more money? I even remember when I was coaching Kimball Musk back in 1993, Elon's younger brother, and he wanted to make $20,000 in profit. And I said, what would your year at university be like if you had 25? And it was just that little thing, but that helped him then decide to grow his revenue by another 20%, which means he then paid attention to the systems and learned them and executed.
Absolutely. You know, and the example you're giving is really, it's the systems that exist, but then it's the leadership that actually, it's a process-minded leadership. It is people-minded leadership that actually makes the people to follow those processes.
Correct.
So now we're living in the AI world, right? AI era. What's your take on it? What's your take on the role of AI in leadership, in systems, in business?
Well, I think AI is pretty much going to obliterate every job that exists and most industries that exist. It's going to massively change things. And the people that are going to exist, we've heard this saying hundreds of times now that AI is not going to replace you. Someone using AI will replace you. That's kind of true. I think a lot of jobs will be replaced by AI, not by someone using AI. A lot of jobs will get replaced with robots and with machines. That's fine. And then if people are going to work in business and work in roles, they're going to have to be the people that are good at adapting, that are good at leading others, that are good at leading themselves, that are good at actually learning, that are good at problem solving. And I think the skill around adaptation, the skill around learning new tools and picking up new tools and frequently putting yourself out of a job so that you can take on other responsibilities and adapt. So I think people have to learn to adapt quickly and find new tools quickly. Just last week, I was in Tonga diving and swimming with whales, and I was speaking with one of the guys on the trip, and he's an actor and a screenwriter. And I said, acting in 10 or 15 years is pretty much gone, right? Acting will be done by computers. Computers will create incredible movies. They're already saying that the movie Avatar could probably be created by a computer next year for around $1,500 total. That's extraordinary. So that means the people that were acting in Avatar aren't going to be able to be acting in those roles. So you have to be able to adapt and find other areas to work in the movie industry. He's literally writing scripts and typing them all out. I said, have you learned any AI tools? Have you leveraged any AI tools to help you write scripts? And he said, no, I don't even know if any exist. I'm sure they do. So last night, just before I went to sleep, I looked a few up for him and I found 5 really great tools: Jasper, Squibbler, Synthesia, Nolan AI, Write Sonic. I found 5 tools that are specifically used for writing better scripts in the movie and film industry, sent them over to him, and I found them all on a dashboard called There Is an AI for That, right? Or using Grok is another one. You just type into Grok and ask it questions and it can give you the research that you need. But people have to learn to adapt or die.
That's very true. So how do you see your coaching, your industry? I mean, we are in the industry of coaching and helping people, not just coaching,
Yeah.
but also providing solutions, trusted advisors. How do you see this industry of, let's talk about you in terms of you were very successful. You're the founder of COO Alliance. You helped many, many COOs, second in command, excel. What is your advice to them? I mean, how do you see yourself adapting and changing in order to continue helping that industry?
Well, I don't see coaching existing after about another 2 or 3 years. I think the entire area for most people, personal coaching, low-level business coaching, psychiatrists, psychologists, counseling, none of that will exist. All of that will be done with AI. Right now, I'm working with a group called Delphi to train my video and audio and written avatar. So I'll drop a link into the chat. You can even share it if you'd like. But this is it. We have taken, using Delphi, we've uploaded all 6 of my books, hundreds of my blog posts, hundreds of my YouTube videos, and all of that is in there and trained. And anybody can ask me questions about any area of their business, and it'll spit out either me giving them the answers or written answers about actually my content. I think that will start getting better and better and better. And then for the most part, people will use that either as a free tool or a subscription tool. I think we're going to see a lot more happening with community, where people will want to connect with others, where it'll be mastermind communities of, I'm holding an event in September for the COO Alliance. I hold one next April in Vancouver, where I'll have 60 COOs from around the world. Looking to put one together next year in Dubai, where we'll have COOs from Europe and Asia come together. So I think there's going to be a lot more movement towards community and people getting together to collaborate and learn, and then also to share information with each other. So we do this little 5-minute book report where members share and show how they're using different tools to others so that they can then learn what those tools are. So it's kind of randomly sharing, I think will be a very powerful way for people to learn. But I think the coaching world is going to be massively changed. And then I also think even kind of things like the medical world will be massively changed. There's comments that a doctor practicing without using an AI tool will become malpractice, right? That every single AI tool that's out there right now is smarter and more up to date than almost every single general practitioner. Like any GP, can't diagnose as well as an AI tool like Grok can.
Yeah. So how do you see COO Alliance specifically in the next 3 years? What do you think will happen?
Growth. We're looking to add more, do more in Europe. We're looking to do more in the Middle East. So running one event a year in Europe, one event in the Middle East. We have members right now from 17 countries. We have an AI expert presenting every single month via Zoom. And then we also have a monthly expert presenting on some area of leadership and business to all of our members via Zoom. We have an AI Slack channel. So we actually use an app called Circle, which is similar to Slack, where members can share videos, share tools, ask questions of each other, share resources. So it becomes kind of like a shared community. And I think what I'm working really hard on is to raise the confidence, the competence, right, the skills and the connections of COOs so that they can then do more. Right? And I think it's going to be that community. It's them knowing each other and knowing each other's skills that will actually be very powerful. I even think back to the first COO Alliance event that I ran 9 years ago. I started and ran an event just for 10 COOs, and I had no agenda. So a week before, I reached out to everybody and I said, here's the plan. Show up with a 30-minute presentation where you will present on something to the rest of the members. And then that was day one. All 10 members did a 30-minute presentation, and then they spent the rest of the time asking each other about them. On day two, I had them present one problem they were having, and the other members gave their advice and expertise on how to fix the problem. So at the end of 2 days, 9 out of the 10 members wanted to continue meeting, and that was me running an event with no agenda and charging them $7,000 for the privilege. And that became the starting point for this. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that, where people will share and collaborate and help each other scale. That's really what the growth will be for the coaching business, not as much of the one-on-one coaching that can be done by avatars.
Yeah, and I think it's also the experience, right? I mean, the events have to be, they have to be high, like an experience that people want to come and experience and do things and meet with people and network and have some meaningful connections.
Right. And I think it is about connections, right? I think a lot of ways people are tired of the Zoom calls too, right? They're tired of only interacting or largely interacting. We miss that sense of community pre-COVID of going to an office and spending time with people. But that kind of horses out of the barn. Business will never go 100% back to in person. But I think largely business leaders, CEOs, executive team members, COOs for sure are missing those connections. And that's what I'm trying to work with them on.
I agree.
Then
You know,
also
yeah.
realizing that I don't even need to be the expert. I just need to bring all these other COOs together and they're the experts, right? They can share.
That's exactly right. So you just the vehicle to get them together and you have your expertise, but they are there. You know, the COOs will also have to drive together with the visionary, right? The CEO, but they will have to drive the AI change, right? The AI revolution, evolution, whatever you want to call it. They have to drive their company to be an AI company. So,
Yeah.
right?
I've got a good system that I'm using for that right now, and it's something that I learned when I was in grade 7.
Tell me.
Remember when we were in grade school and we had to do a book report?
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher didn't care what book we read. We just had to go to the library. We had to pick out a book. We had to read the book. And then we had to write a report based on a format that they gave us. And we had to stand in front of the class and share how we felt or what we learned or what we liked about the book. So they gave us a system to present, and we got to learn and share. And the teacher just got to sit there and do nothing other than make sure that we learned how to do a presentation. We learned the confidence, those platform skills, and everybody else learned about all these random books that other people were excited in. I use that same format with sharing about AI, and I'm getting companies on a weekly basis to do a 5-minute book report on an AI tool that they used this week and demo how they use the tool, how they use the agent, what new app they're using, what new tool they're using, and what benefit they got from it so others can get inspired and educated and just see that those tools even exist. So that's how last night for me, I was able to just quickly go and use Grok. And by the way, I've switched to Grok from OpenAI. Grok is faster. It seems to be giving better succinct information. And it's a similar tool, but it's more up to date because it works on current information and it can actually leverage the internet more than OpenAI, which is trained on data up until I think it's July of 2024. So it's now about 7 months, 8 months, 10 months behind.
Wow. You see, you just shared with us the book report. That's
There you
amazing.
go.
That's amazing. Yeah. And what
Well,
do you think?
and
Yeah,
it's a simple tool that we're all familiar with too, right? It's a simple way to share. And then a company doesn't have to worry about who's the next expert. You're filled with experts. You're filled with people. And how do we just inspire people? Well, it's just a quick little burst of here's something I did that's kind of cool. And you go, wow, that's fucking great. By letting people share and saying, wow, that's great, that raises their confidence to go and do more. And our job as a leader is to grow people's skills and their confidence and their connections.
absolutely. What do you think about books? Do you think is it still relevant to write books as entrepreneurs, right? I mean, you wrote
Yeah,
6 of them. So do you think what's the difference between books and generating it in AI?
I think books are still relevant where people are a thought leader because it shows you in this space. It's a marketing tool. It establishes credibility. It is a way for people to still share. I think video content is being devoured, right? We have this generation of people that are generating content and devouring content on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, LinkedIn. I share a lot of tools for free on my 2 YouTube channels. So I have a YouTube channel where we share probably 5 or 6 videos a week of me sharing content with others. And then we also have a lot of shorts that are like 1, 2 minute videos that people are learning and searching. YouTube right now is the second largest search engine on the planet. So people are using YouTube as a way to learn. So I think that's going to be something that probably starts to grow potentially even faster than books now, is thought leaders sharing video content, which is how people like to learn, right? Like they like to listen to a video or watch a video while they're in the gym or while they're driving a car, or when they're going for a walk. So I think that's going to be something that true thought leaders have to be good at sharing that content.
Absolutely. And do you think it will be the thought leader themselves? Like, would it be you, or would it be an AI, an avatar AI that is going to share it?
It's going to be both. We're testing 2 different AI video tools this week. Actually, we're launching 2, 5 videos from each. One is using an app called Notebook.fm, which has 2 people that basically the AI devours the content, and then it's like a podcast interview of these 2 people sharing their thoughts around a content. So we're doing 2 people sharing thoughts around my business vivid vision, my personal vivid vision, and a couple of other articles that I've written, and then Notebook.lm generates the actual audio podcast automatically. And then we're also doing some video avatar videos where we're going to take some scripted written work of mine and we're going to test it with a video version of me, knowing that about 65% of people look at content on their phone. On a laptop, I don't think the video avatars are strong enough yet. But on a phone, it's almost indiscernible. You can't even tell that it's me or my avatar doing stuff. So we are going to test some video versions of me, and we're working on those this week.
Great. Well, send it over and we'll include it in the show notes because I'm
Okay.
interested to look at that. And I'm sure our listeners would want to see what the result is. So, we're recording today. The episodes are going to be, we still have a month and a half before it's going to be live. And I would definitely would like to include it in the show notes because and by then, who knows, a new tool will arrive because it's all moving very
Always.
fast, right? And that's, I think, part
Well,
of it. You said adapt. It's true. We also have to be able to be part, have the change and move fast because things do move fast. And that's a key component. Absolutely.
that's one of the things that I love is this tool called There Is an AI for That. So there's an AI for that shows that there's 39,000 different AI tools that do about 13,000 tasks and 5,000 that can be used in 5,000 different jobs. That's a lot of tools, 39,000 different AI tools that exist. So
That's
it's
a
just
lot
about
of tools.
right. So the reality is like someone the other day said, well, AI is not going to be able to, write a book. Really? I mean, it can do surgery. It can drive a car. But we're not completely there yet, right? A Waymo car that I've driven in, a self-driving vehicle that drives everywhere, can't write a book yet, right? Grok can't drive a Tesla yet. So, but robots are doing surgery. So when you can do these tools, I think we're going to start to see the implementation of those. Right now, I heard just recently that South Korea, 14% of the labor force in South Korea is robots already.
Yep.
That's one out of every seven people working in South Korea is a robot.
But you still have humans working, so it will just evolve because the whole technology, the output, everything that is there will go up to a next level, and you gotta
Yes,
adapt.
for
You gotta
I
learn.
think it will be for the ones who learn, but I think there's a lot of people who are not learners who are waiting for someone to delegate work to them are largely going to be out of a job and may end up being in trouble and getting on government, welfare or government programs because I spoke to a driver of an Uber last summer, so 10 months ago, and I mentioned, he was complaining paying 30% of his money to Uber. And I said, dude, you're out of a job. Like, in 2 years, there's self-driving. He didn't even know he'd never heard of self-driving cars. So here's someone who is not up on technology, isn't learning, isn't trying to learn, and all he's doing is in his little vacuum being frustrated. I think those people are at risk, because even the blue collar job of digging ditches will be done by robots in 5 years. So there's a lot of that blue collar work that the mailman, the postman, the delivery person, like all of those blue collar jobs are largely going to be done by robots and machines.
So that is where the responsibility is to train and give enough knowledge
Correct.
and put enough knowledge out there so whomever wants to improve, I mean, basically wants to survive, they will be able to know how to do that because it is very fast evolving world. I agree.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for leaders of companies and for companies themselves to recognize that employees are nervous. And
That's
our
true.
and our job is to care about them being nervous, to care about their fear, and to help educate them, to help give them the tools to be smarter, to help give them the confidence to learn, because those nervous people are underproductive, right? If employees are showing up fearful, that fear is going to reduce their output by 10 to 20%. So your job is to recognize that and to care about them versus expect that they're going to be able to do it all on their own, which is not going to happen.
Very true. And that's the responsibility of the people
Right.
that are leading and really understanding and being in tune with what's happening and keep yourself up to date and knowing
Correct.
so you can and like you said, from those communities, be part of a community, be part of a mastermind, be part of, communicate to your peers because that's how things are being created.
Well, and it's even why I launched a course called Invest in Your Leaders about 3 years ago. I've got thousands of managers and leaders going through the course. I priced it at $350 per person just to make it really affordable so companies can actually decide to put people through those 12 leadership skills. And by the way, when you spend $350 growing an employee's skills, their output changes by 20%, right? They're way more productive. They're way happier. They're way more engaged. They know that you care about them. And they just, that's a small expense for a big company or for a mid-sized company to actually lock up and keep those employees who now feel like you care about them.
That's true. Very true. Cameron, if people want to hear more about Cameron, I mean, obviously there is YouTube and LinkedIn and your books, but where should we direct them?
Yeah, if they go to CameronHerold.com, and it's Herold. So CameronHerold.com. It has all of my books, my course. It has links to my podcast, my 2 YouTube channels, the COO Alliance. It's all set up like a link tree. So it's very easy to find all the information about me.
Fantastic. And by the way, I remembered how we got introduced now. It's Jeremy Slade from Command Your Brand. He is the one that introduced us during the pandemic in 2020. So thank you, Jeremy, for that introduction.
Eddie, thanks very much. Appreciate this.
Thank you for being on the podcast, Cameron. It's been a pleasure interviewing you and having this conversation.
Yeah, great chatting with you again. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.